Good evening. How are we? Yes, wonderful. I really enjoyed their presentation. We're just going to continue on in the spirit of unity. I'm going to be talking with you today about human progression, and we're going to have a slight little twist to it that I'm hoping that each of you will be able to relate with. Well, what is human progression? All of us want to progress, even though we may not feel like doing it when our parents are telling us to do it, or our professors are telling us to do it, or the world is saying you need to do it. But we all as humans have the ability to progress. And as we progress, we affect the world around us. Now, affecting change starts from within. It starts from having that vision. So it's important for us to think about ourselves as we begin to look at our own progression and how that progression affects not only ourselves, but humanity. So for humanity, what could it possibly do? Let's just say, what if I wanted to progress to become more of a sexist? Do you think I might be moving that right direction? Do you think I may be narrowing my view? What if I progress towards racism? I'm progressing in that direction. Do you think possibly my progression could dehumanize others? Could possibly make others invisible? We have a responsibility when we think about our own progression and how it affects not only ourselves, but each and every one around us. Now, I mentioned earlier that it starts with you, with each and every one of you. In the recent election we had in 2016, there was a lot of division in the way we voted, the way we thought, the way we reacted to the results. Oftentimes we are still today in that divisiveness spirit, if you will. What do I mean by that? Well, how could you possibly vote for this person with these values? How could you vote for that person with those types of rules and regulations? You should have voted my way, the way that I think the election should have gone. But it really does start with you. How do you want to progress? Do you ever get a chance to think about your progression? So since it starts with you, what's the first thing possibly that you should do? How about evaluating yourself? I need to evaluate what I'm doing, where I'm going. Why am I trying to get there? Who will I affect if I don't get there? What will I do when I do get there? It has to start with me first, just like it has to start with you, and you, and you. So we have to start from within. We're going to evaluate ourselves first. Well, who are you? I'm someone who has a lot of strong feelings about what? I'm someone who wants to help a certain aspect of our human existence here, through music, through dance, through education, through many, many things. Who are you? And what do you stand for? Do you have a willingness to change? Which is often required when we progress. Now, there's some of us who may believe that, well, it's easy to progress. Put one foot in front of the other, as this mic drop, and then the next one in front of the other. But maybe I need to sidestep over here. And then come back to this point. It's not always a linear journey. As we're growing and developing and progressing, we may take many, many detours to continue to explore self, to assess myself, my beliefs, my values, my thoughts. Are they mine? Were they given to me? Did I learn them? Have I assessed them and got rid of some that I'm seeing now can be very harmful to my community, to humanity? Or do I discover I have a few that I need to increase and become more strong about so I can be an advocate and help all of humanity? But it has to first start with me. I have to progress. I have to think about what I need to do to contribute to this world that we live in. So what drives you? What's going to drive your progress? Is it a new job? Possibility of a new mate? Possibility of moving? Or maybe it's just a thing to do. But again, these are the questions you have to ask yourself. What if I only want to progress because it is my desire to fulfill my wants? I want to do this for me because I want to do this. It has to be about me. I want to progress because I want that new car. What about if we all took an egotistical view of our progression? We do that sometimes. But as we're talking about human progression and how it affects humanity, I may want to double check a little bit with myself and stretch out of my egotistical point of view and expand to touch others. So I may want to rise to the occasion, and I also want to encourage others to rise to their occasion. Because individuals, as we know, will rise to the level of expectation. I know everyone in here wants to do something like that. But again, there's some critical questions you have to ask yourself. The word human progression and progression sounds so easy, has a little swing to it sometimes. But can you really do it? You ask yourself, can I really do this? I mean, really, really, really. Not the really, whatever, the really, really, really. And you talk to yourself at night in the quietness of your space, when no one's looking, and you have that little breakdown. Can I really do this? Yes, you can. But do I want to? Is it just easy for me to walk around life as is? Why do I need to change? Why do I need to contribute to humanity? Why all that stress and strain? Why would I put that on myself? I want to just be. Well, what do I need to do to progress? Since I think we all believe that progression is pretty much a positive thing. Sometimes it may not be as positive, but growth. Everything grows. Seed grows into a flower. Babies grow into adulthood. We grow naturally. But then there's some ways we need to possibly grow where we may not think is always natural. And when it's not quite natural for us, we need to ask ourselves these questions after we've done our internal searching and assessment of who we are. Who are you? What are your values? What are your beliefs? What are your biases? What are your stereotypes? What are your prejudices? We all have them. But have you looked at them lately? Really, really, really. Look at them. Well, we're going to look at a couple of them today. So, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we can humanly progress through cultural competency. Okay? Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to examine how we approach this human progression. We're going to specifically look at our relationships with people who may be different, customs that are different, values that are different, okay? Now the goal is not to just begin progressing all willy-nilly or just any old kind of way. Maybe we should have a plan. If I'm going to try to maybe challenge some of those biases that I've had since I was this high. Maybe I want to challenge some of those stereotypes that I've heard and I kind of laugh at when I hear it when I'm with my friends. Maybe I need to check myself when I turn my nose up, when I look at someone that looks different from me, or walk away from someone who's speaking different from me, or totally show disdainment when I see someone who loves differently from me. We need to perform some analysis again and continuously to determine, okay, and to make sure that we are going to go on the right path as we begin to progress, especially in the direction, in the area of cultural competence. We do not want to continue to stay in this divisive spirit that we've been in. And I think we can all agree we've been there. We're in it. We don't like to admit it all the times. But in order to arrest it, to eradicate it, to stop it down, I have to assess myself and to realize that I need to progress in the areas of my belief system about other people who are different, who live differently than I do. I need to ask myself, why do I feel that my way is the only way of thinking and being? Why do I think that my goals and my interests are the only ones that everyone should have? This past election and kind of what's still going on now with a lot of conflict between our communities and each other, we have forgotten to ask ourselves some questions about what does it mean to be human? What does it really mean? Am I behaving in a way where I am showing my humanity in a way that I am giving, I am accepting, I am loving, I'm helping, I'm directing, I'm dancing and laughing and loving? We need to think about that when we're doing our self-analysis. When we look at developing our cultural competency, and I'll use myself as an example. Prior to coming to San Diego, I was in New Orleans when Hurricane Katrina hit and wiped away everything but what was our backs. And as my husband and I were evacuating and watching all of the trauma that was happening around us, I would listen to various TV announcers and broadcasters and others as we made our way from New Orleans to the Bay Area first, and San Diego. But I was listening to some of these sheriffs and other leaders speaking about, well, if they hadn't done this, then this wouldn't have happened to them. My way is the only way. They should have done this in order to prevent that. So it must have been their fault. That first level of assessment is realizing maybe my way of thinking is not the best way and not the only way. How many of us are willing to embrace that in our own lives? But as we progress, because we're talking about human progression, maybe an experience that I'll have with someone, or someone will pull me aside and say, that was an interesting thought and statement that you made. Let me share with you how I think about things. Well, I would hear another comment from news broadcasters and now colleagues as I've arrived on the San Diego State campus and beautifully lived in residential housing with students. It was wonderful. I started to talk to people about progressing from the thought of it's my way or my thoughts, that's the only way it should be, into maybe listening to other people's stories and validating those stories. Well, that second stage in the progression of some folks that I know who were developing their cultural proficiency was, well, I know their way. Yeah, I heard it. But my way is still better. Yeah, but I heard them now. And at this level, that second level of human progression towards cultural competency, people are aware of other ways of doing it. I heard from you. I heard from you, yeah. And I even listened to you. But I know mine is still the better one. And that's how I'm going to be. That's how I'm going to stay, and I'm all right. Well, I don't think so. I think maybe in our human progression in this area, we should move to that next step. Well, now I'm listening to some other people talking more and more about what happened to them and Hurricane Katrina and how it wasn't their fault that they were stuck in the Superdome and how it wasn't their fault that they didn't want to wade in the water that was up to their waist full of dead bodies and garbage to grab a piece of bread that you dropped from the helicopter without the wrapper on it. And so the person's like, well, oh, did that happen? Oh, wow, maybe, I didn't think that people would think like that, to do things to other humans like that. But maybe that really did happen to you. So now I'm thinking about, wait a minute, now myself, this doesn't happen in our city. When there's a fire, we take care of the horses, the cows, the birds, everyone. But it seems like you're telling me when you were in New Orleans, you stayed on top of that roof for 6 days in 102 degrees, 95% humidity, and watched the helicopters and people go by. I need to look at that. It wasn't different for you. I'm moving now and progressing, so I'm believing and experiencing and validating and embracing and understanding that other people have different experiences. And the way that they address and work with their experiences may be different from mine. It doesn't make them less than. It doesn't make me better than. But now I think I can see that there are some differences maybe in how you were treated in New Orleans with regard to the evacuation, and how maybe you were treated in San Diego when the fire was 2, 3, 4 miles away. Wow. There's some validity there. But now I want to really progress and become a real better person, especially as it relates to humanity. I want to go to another way where I can accept that there is my way and there are other ways. And together, our ways can talk, we can coalesce, we can experience together and possibly come up with some solutions. So these types of things, or the reactions to these things, won't happen like that again. So I'm going to hear your viewpoint. I'm going to take in consideration some of your beliefs, your values, and the reasons why you did what you did. And then I'm glad that you're listening to me to share with you how the experience was for me. And wow, you are just as important as I am. No real difference on the inside. Maybe just our outside looks different. But that's no reason for me to look at you and look down upon you because you were in the Superdome, and I thought maybe because you just didn't want to get out, you just wanted to stay there. But now I know it was a different story. Wow, have my eyes changed? I'm progressing with my thoughts and my acceptance of differences and not believing that everyone is treated the same, nor given the same opportunities. And it doesn't mean they are less than. they didn't deserve it. Oh, you know, those people. No. It has to be the final step of my progression, to realize it is our way. This is us together. What hurts you hurts me. What affects you affects me. That's where I wanted to progress to as I'm looking at cultural competency. I first have to start with my internal self first, to look at my biases. And boy, did I have some. To look at my stereotypes. I really showed them when I was listening to the stories about folks from Katrina. But then I started opening my eyes more because of my experiences. I wanted to be able to say that it's important for us to apply our progression to humanity. If it's not through cultural competency, it can be through music, through so many ways. But do it. And for me, in listening and being a part of that tragedy, I've been able to talk more and more to people about the real story of what happened to people who were stranded in New Orleans. And a lot of eyes have been opened, and minds and thoughts have grown because they broke out of that way that they thought it was. So as we are closing here, we are not all the same. We're beautiful, all of us, but we're not all the same. And similarities and differences among us are very important. Yours, and yours, and yours, and yours. They're all so important in our humanity. There are multiple ways to reach this level, the same level that I gave you the example of. You can go straight. You can do it with a hip hop to the left. You can do it with a sway to the back. Any way you can, but do it. Progress. Each situation is different. Each person has a different story. Don't turn your nose up at that. Don't feel like you don't have any time to listen because they're so different. It's nothing to do with you. It does have something to do with all of us because we are all here together. Human progression is a state of being. We got to recognize again that we are here to help each other. We're here to hear from others who we may not agree with. Yes. We are here to assess if our point of view, our point of being is right and more important than yours. Or is it more important for me to make that human connection by listening to you, validating you, embracing you. Also, understand and focus on what is common among us more than what is uncommon. Thank you, and keep progressing.